Imagine this scenario. You're at a social gathering. Someone walks up to you, you exchange a quick, "Hi, how's it going?" And then nothing. Your mind goes completely blank. The silence feels endless while you desperately hunt for anything, literally anything to say. Does this feel familiar? What if I told you this happens not because you're dull, but because your brain is actually doing its job too well? Stay with me, because I'm about to completely change how you think about conversations. Here's a truth most people never mention. You don't struggle because you have nothing to say. You struggle because you have too much to filter. Your mind produces hundreds of possible responses every minute, but there's an inner voice that instantly shuts them down. That's awkward. Nobody will care. That's too random. That internal judge is stealing your words before you ever speak them. But what if you could silence that voice? What if you could access all those thoughts your mind keeps discarding? Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, and I'll also give you a full toolkit that can turn you into someone people genuinely enjoy talking to. Let's begin with the most powerful technique I've ever learned. I call it the 5-second rule, and it sounds almost too easy to be effective. Here's how it works. When someone says something to you, you give yourself exactly 5 seconds to respond with the very first thought that comes to mind, not the refined version, not the smarter option, just the first thing your brain offers. Why does this work? Because your initial instinct is often far more real and engaging than anything your internal filter would approve. If someone says they just bought a new car, your first thought might be, "I wonder if they got a good deal," or "My cousin got totally ripped off at a dealership." Don't analyze which one sounds better. Pick one and say it. That scam story could open up a great discussion about negotiation, money, or family drama. The deal question might lead to insights about research habits or financial values. Both paths are valuable, but only if you actually voice them instead of censoring yourself. Try this today. Set the mental countdown. 5 seconds, no more. You'll be surprised how much smoother and more natural your conversations feel when you stop aiming for perfection. Now, here's something that might completely change your perspective. The best conversationalists aren't the smartest people around. They're the ones who ask the best questions. And the secret behind great questions is something called strategic ignorance. Strategic ignorance means pretending you don't know as much as you do. If someone tells you they're a graphic designer, instead of showing off your knowledge of design tools, try saying something like, "That sounds creative. What does a normal workday look like for you?" Or, "What's the strangest project you've ever worked on?" This approach is powerful for 2 reasons. First, it makes the other person feel like an expert, and that feels amazing. Second, it gives you insights you wouldn't have gained otherwise. I picked this up from watching late-night talk show hosts. They interview celebrities, authors, scientists, people far more accomplished than most of us will ever meet. But notice what the best hosts do. They ask questions a genuinely curious 12-year-old would ask. How does that work? What's that experience like? Has anything wild ever happened? The magic isn't in proving how knowledgeable you are. It's in showing how eager you are to learn. People will line up to talk to someone who makes them feel interesting and valued. Now, this is where things get really powerful. Every story someone shares contains multiple conversational threads, like a web of possible topics. Most people grab one thread, and when it ends, they panic. I'm going to teach you how to see them all. Imagine someone says, "I was supposed to meet my friend Sarah for brunch yesterday, but she canceled at the last minute because her dog got sick. So I ended up trying a new Korean restaurant by myself." Most people respond to just one detail. Maybe, "Oh no, is the dog okay?" But look at everything you're overlooking. There's the dynamic with Sarah, their feelings about eating alone, experiences with Korean food, changes in weekend plans, stories about pets, and habits around trying new restaurants. Here's the key shift. Don't just notice these threads, reference more than one of them in your response. You could say, "Wow, sick dog drama and a solo food adventure? That's a pretty unexpected Sunday. How was the Korean place? And is her dog doing okay now?" This shows you're listening to the entire story, not just waiting for your turn to speak. It also gives the other person several directions to continue the conversation, making everything flow more naturally instead of feeling forced. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools you can develop, the curiosity cascade. This is how one question turns into a chain reaction.
Instead of asking a single question and then shifting the focus back to yourself, you keep going deeper into their experience. Think of it like being a detective, but for interesting life details instead of crimes. Here's how it works. Someone says, "I just came back from a work conference in Denver." Level 1, how was the conference? Level 2, what surprised you the most? Level 3, how are you planning to apply that to your current projects? Level 4, do you think your company will actually make changes, or will those ideas just fade away? Suddenly, you've moved from surface-level small talk to real insights about their workplace, company culture, frustrations, and excitement. That's where genuine connection forms. The secret is real curiosity. Not curiosity as a trick, but a true interest in how other people navigate their lives. Everyone has developed unique ways to handle common human challenges. Your role is to uncover those approaches. Now let's get practical. Even with all these strategies, there will be moments when your mind goes blank. It happens to everyone, even professional speakers and comedians. The difference is being prepared with a mental emergency kit. Here are 5 conversation lifelines that work almost anywhere. First, the environmental observation. Comment on something you both share. "This playlist actually fits the weather perfectly." Or, "I love how this place is decorated. It feels really cozy." Second, the obvious question. Take something noticeable and explore it. "You seem like someone who has strong opinions about coffee." Or, "I bet you've got some stories about difficult customers." Third, the hypothetical. Ask an engaging what-if question. "If you could redesign your job from scratch, what would you change first?" Or, "What would you do if you suddenly won $50,000? Not life-changing, but enough to be interesting." Fourth, the callback. Refer back to something they mentioned earlier. "I keep thinking about what you said about your sister's business. How did she even get started?" Fifth, the genuine compliment. Notice something real and ask about it. "You seem really passionate when you talk about teaching. What made you choose that path?" Keep 2 or 3 of these ready at all times. They aren't tricks, they're authentic ways to reconnect when your mind temporarily shuts down. Finally, let's cover something almost nobody teaches, but everyone needs: how to end conversations without it feeling awkward. The perfect exit has 3 parts: appreciation, reason, and bridge. Appreciation: "This has been really interesting. I didn't realize marketing psychology was so complex." Reason: "I should probably grab a coffee before they close." Bridge: "I'd love to hear how that project turns out. Would you mind if we connect on LinkedIn?" This works because you're acknowledging the value of the conversation, giving a neutral reason for leaving, and opening the door for future contact. No one feels dismissed, and the connection stays positive. Remember, ending a conversation well matters just as much as starting one. It's the final impression you leave, and it determines whether someone will want to talk to you again. Here's the core takeaway. Conversation isn't about being the most fascinating person in the room. It's about being the most genuinely interested one. It's about creating space for real human connection in a world that's becoming more digital and disconnected. Thanks for watching.